All right, so what do we make of this situation? The president's proxies, really, in Congress doing double duty, investigating him as the Constitution provides, and then go into the White House to give guidance? It has to raise real questions, especially if you're going to scream about the integrity of the process. So let's bring in Texas Republican Randy Weber back onto the show. Congressman, welcome back to Primetime. But first, I know you had a hard time getting here tonight. I know an accident was involved. Thank God you're okay. And thank you for continuing on your way here. God bless, and I wish you a safe rest of the weekend.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, so thanks for making the trip. So Meadows and Jordan, here's the concern. It doesn't seem right for one of you guys to go from your oversight capacity to the executive branch whom you are overseeing and talking about what you saw and heard in a closed-door deposition. How is that okay?
You know, Chris, it's interesting that the president's not allowed any representation in this process. His lawyers can't be in the room. He's not allowed to confront the so-called whistleblower, the witness against him. And people want to complain about Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan going to the White House. You have to trust their integrity just as much as you, I guess people would say, trust Adam Schiff's integrity, who has leaked a lot of things, spoke to the whistleblower ahead of time, has absolutely controlled this situation to where Republicans can't be in the room. We had to basically break into one of the rooms a while back. We're not allowed the transcripts. We can read the transcripts as long as we have a Democrat staffer watching us.
Right.
We don't get access to the process. And Mark and Jim, who have been in most of the hearings,
right.
People assume that they're doing something improper because they speak to the White House, yet Adam Schiff can do everything he wants, hold up the process, keep Republicans out, keep the public at bay. The president doesn't get due process, and he's not questioned about that. You talk about a double standard, Chris.
I hear all of it. I was making notes as we went along because I didn't want to interrupt you. My rebuttal questions to you are, number one, this is a deposition, not a hearing. The president, nor Clinton, and even Nixon early on, no president has ever had representation inside a deposition. Henry Hyde did over 100 of these. Clinton never had an attorney in any because it's the investigatory phase, point one. Point two, you guys have people in all of them. You had people in the room in the skiff when the Gates gang busted in there. You had Republicans in there. So there are Republicans in all of them. And you never answered my question. The president's not supposed to have representation at a deposition at this point. Why is it okay for a member of Congress to go from their oversight role to go to advise the White House on a defense strategy?
You're making an assumption, Chris, that somehow they're saying improper things to the White House.
How could they not? If they're saying anything, how could it not be improper? They said they're giving general contours, but if it's anything beyond what's public, how's it okay?
You know, that's the major problem with this entire process, in my view, is that they're assuming what the president meant on a phone call, although he didn't say it. The Ukrainian president didn't believe that it was any kind of quid pro quo. People are thinking there was an improper motive.
The Ukrainian president said he wasn't under pressure, Congressman. He never said there wasn't a quid pro quo.
They're wanting to impeach the president for their interpretation of imposing upon him their belief, their attitude. And now here you're trying to do, or I should say people are trying to do it with Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan.
No, I don't want to impugn them. I asked them both on the show, Congressman, to be honest. I love having you on, but obviously I'd want to have the people who are the direct subject of the allegation. I'm all about hearing out why they did it, but they say they went from the legislative to the executive, two separate branches of government, one with oversight over the other, and they say provided general contours of an understanding of what happened in the deposition to help the White House defense. I don't understand. It's certainly not in the Constitution to do that. Why is it okay?
Let me ask you this question,
yes,
Chris. Do you realize that members of Congress go into classified briefings all the time?
Yes.
And by law, we're not supposed to reveal what's in those classified briefings.
True.
I'm sorry?
True, yes.
Oh, true.
In the affirmative.
And so members of Congress are counted on to do the right thing every single day of their lives, basically.
Yes.
And just because Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows sit in on these hearings and they go and sit down with the president, are they automatically guilty of something wrong? It's like that's what they're accusing the president of. He's automatically guilty of doing something wrong. He's assumed guilty, not innocent. He's guilty before being proven innocent.
I think it would be
That's the problem.
I think it would be very wrong to do that. And when politicians do it, unfortunately, it's a political process, but it's wrong even then. And this is just the investigatory phase. And I and you, and I'm sure a lot of other people, are waiting for the hearings to make our own judgment about whether this even rises to the level of an article of impeachment. But it still doesn't answer my question. Even if other people are leaking, even if they're not
Chris,
leaking,
I don't agree with your last comment. I don't agree with your last comment that people are going to wait to the hearings. The Democrats have already judged this president as guilty. They've been looking for a way to impeach him since day one. For Pete's sakes, one of the Democratic congressmen said in a TV interview, we've got to impeach him because we're afraid he'll get reelected.
Did they make the president offer a bribe to the president of Ukraine and insert his president to work to his lawyer to work with these shady guys who have connections to a Ukrainian oligarch to look for dirt on Biden? Did they make him do that?
This president never offered a bribe. The president of Ukraine wanted help in cleaning up corruption over there. President Zelensky brought up the corruption first. President Trump said, here's a couple things you want to look in. It's not President Trump's fault that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden got caught up.
But if he wanted to look at Biden, you and I both know, Congressman, the proper channel is to go to the DOJ or the FBI or through at least diplomatic channels, not to insert your lawyer into a shadow operation.
When the president of Ukraine asked for help draining the swamp basically over there, and the president said, here's a couple examples, it's not his fault that the Bidens were part of that.
The only corruption, you think that President Zelensky's concern about corruption in his country had to do with Biden and the DNC? Because he never mentioned it. He said, Giuliani told me about your interest in the DNC and in Biden.
Did you read the transcript?
Yes, many times. I think I might even have it. Oh, here it is.
As I have too, it's sitting in my notebook on my lap. And I will tell you that President Zelensky mentions it first. He commends President Trump for dealing with corruption over here. He asks for help in Ukraine.
Yes.
Now, I don't care if you're Biden running for president.
He asks for help with missiles.
I don't care if you're Biden's son.
He asks for help with missiles.
You don't get to pay for play. You don't get to have him sell your influence.
Wait, first of all, yes, you do. Congressman, of course you do. You are allowed, even when you work for the United States government, to cut personal deals for advantage, even while you're doing the job for the U.S. government. It must be legal because the president's daughter is doing it right now. Ivanka Trump, representing the U.S. government, went to China and got a bunch of patents right when she was meeting with President Xi. And that's okay.
Chris,
so isn't it okay?
Just another example of anti-Trumpism you just quoted.
How is that okay?
The president's family has been involved in business around the world for a long time.
So you can keep doing it while you work in the U.S. government?
To go to the White House.
So you can keep...
So they can make business, they can do business, they can make money while they're working for the U.S. government.
Really?
They're not selling. Absolutely they can.
Wow, I didn't know that.
If you have business interest around the world before you get in office, getting in office doesn't preclude you from making money.
Oh, I didn't know that. So, Congressman, if you had a business beforehand, so you can take a meeting and say, by the way, before I talk to you about this policy, I'd love to get a new contract for my shipping company. I didn't know you could do that.
There you go at it again,
because I'm
Chris,
being facetious.
That they're guilty,
because we know you can't do it. We know Ivanka Trump did it. I got a whole readout on it.
You are literally hitting at the heart of what's wrong with this impeachment.
The hypocrisy of it.
The Democrats are assuming guilt before innocent. You just quoted another talking point from them.
I'm saying that if you're upset about what Biden's son did, and by the way, I think I'm one of the few people on television who has said, I don't like what his son did. I think it's wrong. I think the VP knows that, and that's why he wants to change the rules if he gets to be president. I don't like people making money off their family operations. What I'm saying is the idea that this president was worried about it going on in Ukraine, but he ignored normal channels, he ignores corruption in his own administration, he ignores it in his own family, and he uses his lawyer to do a shadow operation to get it done with two wise guys who wind up getting indicted, doesn't sound like the most legit thing.
None of that's true, Chris.
It's
This
all
president was
true.
having a conversation with another president. You're assuming he's guilty before innocent.
He
It's just a
said,
classic
do us a
example.
favor, and asked for him to look into the Bidens and talk to Mr. Giuliani.
The president of Ukraine asked President Trump for help in cleaning up the swamp.
Not with the Bidens.
Chris, you're again, it's not President Trump's fault that the Bidens were in an apparent
Only
pay-for-play
reason the
scheme of
Bidens
selling
came up
influence.
was because Giuliani asked the Ukraine government to reopen the case. But Congressman Randy Weber, I appreciate the zealousness, especially on a night where you were almost in a car accident. So God bless you. Thank you for coming here. Have a good weekend. I'll see you again.
Chris, it's good to be here and to hear your opinion. Good night.
It's just an observation on the facts. But listen, you got to keep the dialogue going because you people are going to have to make two different